Hello, guys, and welcome to Awaken Within podcast with Conquer Me 365, and I'm your host, AJ Rowe. This is a no BS space for men and women that are waking up, not just talking about healing, but living it. And my guest today is someone who's been through it, real pain, real struggle, and found their way to purpose through fire. So let's get into it. Today, I'm joined by Paul McCabe. He's a business owner, father, and loves vlogging, travel, and live content. But what makes his story powerful isn't the title, it's where he's been and how he's transformed that into purpose. Hey Paul, welcome.
Thank you, AJ. Thanks for having me.
My absolute pleasure, mate. We'll get straight into it, if that's all right with you.
Dive in, brother.
Happy days. I mean, to be fair, we did have a 3-hour conversation yesterday.
Honestly, I think I said to you, it's about 15 years since I last spoke to anybody for 3 hours. I mean, what was that about? Yeah, that's young love for us, isn't it?
That's it, mate. So we might not have anything to speak about today.
Are we off?
We're off. We're done. That's it. Let's go. So no, we'll get straight into it, Paul. And I think obviously what I want to know, I know certain bits, but I think it's obviously important for the viewer to get an understanding of what your life was like before the awakening, if you like, and maybe what pain you went through, what struggles, a little bit about your family, just whatever comes off the cuff for you.
Well, I grew up with the most perfect, beautiful parents that I could have been blessed with. So I was very fortunate to get that solid foundation at an early age, which has carried me through life, really, particularly tapping into things like gratitude. Not everybody's so fortunate with an upbringing, so I was very thankful for that.
Yeah.
And then I started my own business when I was 20, 21. No, probably 24 actually, 24. So from then on, for the last 25 years, it's been full tilt. Having your own business is fantastic opportunities, so-called freedom. But in many ways, as you know yourself, it owns you. You live by the business, you're 24/7. So for many, many years, I've been 100 miles an hour, ambitious, all in, chasing everything. And that's great to be ambitious and to push yourself. But there was very little balance.
Yeah.
So for me, life before this awakening, which I didn't even realize was an awakening, and still, even when I listen to it through my own ears, I'm thinking, what am I listening to? But life before that was filled with anxiety, different flavors of stress and depression, and hadn't grieved properly for losing my mum, who passed away 17 years ago. So for 14 years of those 17 years, I hadn't really processed a lot of grief. Didn't even know that I was carrying it, really. So life for me was 100 miles an hour, but not necessarily always in a positive way.
So was there a rock bottom moment that shifted you towards seeing that you were going through some form of awakening? Was it like a rock bottom moment?
There was one moment when I realized I needed to change trajectory of where I was going. And, I was a typical bachelor, very hedonistic lifestyle that I loved. What I can remember anyway, I loved it. I remember one night, it was probably a Sunday or Monday night, and I'm in my apartment watching the American football at 3 a.m., drinking double, triple vodka Diet Cokes, gambling £200-300 on the American football. And I'm thinking, what am I doing? This isn't the path that's I need to be or want to be on. So it was a little mini awakening then. But really, fast forward, it still took another 6, 7, 8 years until this journey really opened up for me. But it was a very gradual thing. And I think that big moment for me, I was thinking about this morning, was I went to America last year and I was doing some restructuring with my business and I just needed to get away. And I went to America and I drove part of Route 66, that legendary road that cuts through half of America. And you go through these little sleepy towns where time has stood still for the last 50, 60 years. And I've got this picture and video of me lying on the floor on Route 66, just recording myself and looking at myself thinking like, the world has just come to a standstill for me. Because I could lie down on the road because you could see as far as the eye could see that if there was another car coming, it was about 8 miles away and it was about 20 minutes. And it was probably the first moment in my life that time stood still for me. And that trip in general on Route 66, I met all different types of people. And you go away on a normal holiday, you come back, you feel great. 2 days later, you've got holiday blues, you're back to where you were. This trip, a bit similar like Peru, which I'm sure we'll talk about, it made a massive impact on my life. And I fought really hard to keep hold of that feeling. And that feeling, that growth has never left me. So I think that was the first pivotal, real light bulb moment for me.
Yeah, Route 66 is something that's always stood out for me, something that I wanted to do. I only know a couple of people that have done that, including you actually. And they have said it is life-changing. It's just a trip where you're just really connecting with yourself, inner child, everything, because you're so excited. And I've done America. I've done like Florida, New York City. I remember getting to Grand Central Station, got off the train, got to like the main hub. I remember just looking around thinking, wow, did you see that on telly? And I'm just walking through these streets, didn't know where I was going. It's on my own. And then I just thought, I'm going to get a selfie. And as I took the selfie, I noticed in the background the sign said Fifth Ave. And, you hear that in all the films and everything. So I think with Route 66, you see all them vast roads, don't you? And like you say, the little petrol stations with the old school cars, that's what you're referring to when you say time stands still.
Like pinch me moments.
Yeah.
And probably Route 66 would have been lost on me in my mid-20s, because when I was going away, my trips were fueled by different priorities. Fun, carnage, mayhem, chasing this, that and the other, and I loved it. But then I guess my soul, without getting into something too deep too soon, decided that it was time for me to go down a slightly different path. So it was like a pilgrimage, if I'm honest.
Yeah. Was you on your own?
On my own.
Yeah.
And I love traveling on my own. I love my own space, almost possibly too much could be the case. And for me, I spend a lot of time either with my little beautiful daughter, Estella. So we travel or we spend time together or do stuff on my own. Because I think also that's when you can do the inner work a lot more. And people ask, well, what is the inner work? It's looking within and just working yourself out. Because in today's world, we don't ever need to work ourselves out because we've got so many distractions. But when you're on your own and you're prepared to face it, you can't really hide from it for too long.
Definitely not, mate. So when you were, living this lifestyle, you said at the start you had anxiety and like you were stressed, which I understand, in business in like 2021, I took a gig on in car finance. There was one particular point where I took all of this sort of like pressure on that, but I wanted that, I wanted the business, the office where we were. And I didn't even have any pressure on me from people. They were just like, we trust you, enjoy it, have fun. And I only realized now the stress that I was under was all from me, do you know? And to the point one day I actually thought I was having a heart attack. I actually thought I was going to die. So I got in my car, as you do, and I drove to the hospital.
Wow.
So how was you coping with stress at that point? Was it just drink or was it other ways to let the steam off?
I feel that I became conditioned to it. So I felt that every 4, 5, 6 weeks I hit the wall and it became normal. And I knew, like any feeling in life, the cloud passes, the feeling clears and you feel better. So when I was hitting the wall every 6 weeks, I thought, okay, 2, 3, 4 days from now I'll feel okay. And I did. So, but that wasn't a healthy way and it's not the right way. I'm all for being passionate, striving, being ambitious. But I think when you're putting too much value and too much meaning on that, then you're forgetting what it's all about. I mean, I read somewhere that there was a study that 15% of all millionaires have got depression. Well, we think
15,
that money,
yeah,
15,
1.5.
1.5. So we think that money will solve everything for us. That's our easy fix. Eat chocolate, eat crisps, drink alcohol, do drugs, get money, tick, tick, tick. As we all know, it isn't the way, because if you've not got that purpose, whatever your purpose is, and a lot of people maybe don't know their purpose, but if you start looking for it, you're on the right path. But if you've not sorted out the inside, the outside ain't ever going to sort itself out, no matter how pretty and beautiful it is. There's a book I read recently, and I don't read many books. It was an audio book called The Inside Out. And it's about sorting yourself inside, because then we also decide, how do we react when we're triggered by people or situations? It's on us. You might be winding me up, only if I allow you to wind me up. So sort your inside out. That's your foundations to your house. Then put all the pretty stuff in there, which is the sprinklings on the cake. The cake is your inside, I feel.
No, mate, I think you worded that quite well, to be honest with you. So if we shift then to the awakening,
Yeah.
what was it that cracked you open?
My awakening, and people use these cliche words of awakening.
Hate cliches, don't we?
And so forth, because half the time I don't even understand these words anyway. No. I'm coming from this. 3 years ago, my journey started. And up till then, I knew nothing about this. I won't be wearing this T-shirt and I won't be having these beads on. This is from Thailand the other month, and this is from Peru.
Yeah.
So this just crept up on me. So Route 66 was a big crack to open me up. And then Peru with you only a couple of months ago. And, can talk more about plant medicines later on. But an ayahuasca ceremony that I did was the most beautiful moments of my life. And the next night, or 2 nights after, was the most savage and brutal moments of my life. But it was a rebirth, if one for another cliche word. And also things like mushrooms.
Yeah.
So for me, there's been a couple of pivotal moments, but it's been more gradual.
So what was the shift then between you being the guy that was running the business, sat drinking triple vodkas, yeah, and then obviously I know you went to a sound bath, didn't you? That was the first thing.
Yeah.
So between the point of you realizing, this isn't me, I shouldn't be doing this, and then going to the sound bath, what was that journey like?
It was still very much up and down. And if I'm honest, it was only the birth of my daughter when I was 41 that I started to slow down. I knew at 39, 40, change is coming, change needs to happen, and also feel like I had the tools now to be the parent that I wanted to be. So it carried on with a reasonable amount of carnage, to be honest. And then my daughter was born, and then slowly it started creeping in. But then it still took till 3 years ago. So my daughter was still, at the time, 4 or 5. So from her being born till 4 or 5, it was still very much work in progress. And then I went to a sound bath. It was only 3 years, literally today. I went to my first sound bath that I knew nothing about.
3 years today, first sound bath.
Give or take a month or so. And I thought, do I need to take my swimming trunks? Sounds like there's a bath, there's water involved.
That's happened here before. Because obviously, I do sound baths as part of the McCabe's 365 business. And we had a woman who was about mid-60s, maybe early 70s, and she's arrived. And she started asking about her costume. But it's like when you've got the hustle and the bustle of like 20 people coming through the door. I said, don't worry about that. I'll go through that a little bit later on. Anyway, at the end, it clicked, as she left. Because we do the ice bath at the end. So I thought she was talking about that. But she brought her costume for the sound bath.
That's hilarious. I can believe it.
But it's like, I forget. Because obviously this has been our life. I'm similar to you. I started this in like Jan, 2023. So coming up to 3 years.
And were you not aware of this world beforehand up till then? Or?
No, mate. No. I went to see...
So me and you would have been in the pub together 3 years ago. Not even, this wouldn't have been on our radars.
Not at all, mate. No, so I literally went into everything personal development, self-development. In the Jan of 2023, got a coach. He's got like a bit of a spiritual twist to him. So he was talking about things like ayahuasca and mushrooms. And for me, mushrooms was an interest, but ayahuasca sounded like the fucking scariest thing in the world. And it was around about the kind of April time I went to my first retreat. And then I didn't even look at the itinerary until I was driving down to Essex. So it was me and Michelle. And she was like, have you not read the itinerary? I was like, no. So I looked and it was like mind-body connection, breath work, sound healing. It said meditation on there. Everyone knows what meditation is.
You say that, but not everybody does.
True. But yeah, I thought, what am I going to be doing for these 3 days? I literally, my point, well, Michelle booked it, but I think at that time, I was really riding the ice bath wave. You
Yeah.
know, I really connected with that as a
Yeah.
form of a tool to sort of decompress. And, you know, it was a challenge, mate. It was building that resilience in my mind. So I was just going because it was a Wim Hof style retreat. Wim Hof's known
Yeah.
for breath work, yeah, but also the cold water stuff. So yeah, I just sort of dived into this retreat, 3-day retreat, and then I just got
And
shown
did
all
you
these
find that
modalities.
you opened up to it quite naturally? The impact was there, boom, or again was it a bit more gradual dipping your toe in, or was it a
At that point, mate, there was zero resistance from me. It was first breathwork session on the Saturday morning, 8 a.m. And I remember walking out thinking, what was that? You know, in a positive way, you know, because first time ever lay there in a room of 20 people. Ravi was the instructor, like really sound guy, guided us all through like a conscious connected breath up to an hour. And there's people around me crying, you know, a couple of people just really just releasing these tears and blubbering almost. And I was just kind of going through like a process of just clarity and peace, you know, and that's not how my brain was living prior to that. So that was my eye opener, and that was enough for me. And one thing that stood out across the whole weekend, there was this girl that had been brought along by a sister. So a sister was like what me and you are now, well into the spirituality. And she was obviously, you can imagine prior to the retreat saying to her sister, come on, I'm going to book you on, we need to get you on the path. And this girl all weekend was very resistant, and you can feel the energy of her. Even then, you know, I could feel it, like she didn't want to be there.
the key thing is that she was open to
True.
giving it some sort of go.
And on the Sunday morning or the Monday morning, whenever the last day was, the last final breathwork session, it was an early one. Again, it was an 8 a.m. start, and she walked in like a stroppy kid, didn't want to be there.
Right.
And I just clocked it because that's just what I do. I observe anyway.
Yeah.
And at the time, I probably did judge her. I thought, like, it's disrespectful.
Yeah.
Anyway, right at the end of the session, you can hear this woman crying, etc., which can happen during breath because obviously we're releasing the stress and the pressure and the emotion from the nervous system. And it was that girl. And it took those 2 or 3 days to just literally break her down, take the mask off, you know, let the layers sort of strip off as the weekend was going through. And then that was it. And she just said, like, what made her sort of was just release. Her dad died, and, you know, she fucking misses him, and it was a tragic death. And she could hear his voice saying, I'm okay now.
That's beautiful.
And as she was telling that story, I was filling up.
Yeah.
You know, nearly started. Then you can feel the emotion coming through.
Yeah.
So that is the power of the work, isn't
Sure.
it? That is the power of the work.
It's very much like if you imagine an onion with all the layers. So she's walked in there, all the layers are on, small layers coming off but not making a difference. Next thing you know, on that final morning, that layer's come off and it's opened up her emotions. But I think a lot of people, I mean, I've become fascinated with self-development and now spirituality. And I guess they go together. But first of all, I think you've got to be honest enough to admit that you're in a position that you're not truly happy with, and most people run away from that conversation with themselves or with others. Then be brave enough to look to face it. And then as the girl did on the third morning, she probably didn't try and fight it. She embraced it. Surrendered into the unknown. And that's such a scary thing for all of us, no matter where we are in our so-called journey or life, is the surrender into the unknown.
Who suggested the sound bath to you then, the first one?
It's really interesting you mention that, because my ex-wife, who's brought me a fair amount of grief through a few actions over the years, although she brought me my most beautiful present in the world, my daughter, she also brought me into spirituality. So I've got a lot to thank her for on one hand. So my ex-wife found a babysitter online, helped look after our little girl. And the babysitter turned out to be very spiritual. I didn't know what spirituality was. I just thought she was a bit of a hippie, you know, but such a great soul. And I connected with her a little bit. She said, you know, I go to this place called the Lighthouse. What's the Lighthouse? Went to that, and it's this amazing centre where it's really into holistics and wellness and spirituality and all of this crazy stuff that I would have run miles away from years ago. So that led me to the lighthouse. But my ex-wife must have been talking to someone that she knew, and she must have said in conversation, Paul's struggling a little bit. So whoever she spoke to said, oh, I know about these people that do alternative therapies or whatever you want to call it, and they do sound baths. So my ex-wife said to me, try this person, they've been recommended. Message this lady called Sharon, who's an angel, with the work that she does, and I went to a sound bath. And that was it. So in many ways, I've got my wife, ex-wife, to thank for, some negatives as well, but to thank me for this journey. So what I believe in nowadays over the last few years, there isn't so much about coincidences. It's that little things get whispered into our consciousness, and then you follow what thoughts come into your head. So the fact that my ex-wife said, Paul, try this, and we found this babysitter, I believe it was all meant to happen. So I'm very, very grateful to her and how it opened up.
So what did Paul McCabe 3 years ago going to his first sound bath look like? Like when you were going in, to talk us through that experience, how did you feel? Was there any nerves, etc.?
One thing is I'm really open. I like to chase rainbows in life. I look for the positives. Because we're from sales, we know that everything that you try, not everything will have a successful outcome, but we don't take it too personally because we know we want to grow or succeed. So we're prepared to try new things, even if sometimes you fall on your face. And I want to be the best version I can be for me and for my kid, as cheesy as that sounds. And I go by same form, the same result. If you're not happy in life and you're doing the same things, guess what? You're 99.9% going to get the same outcome. So I'm open to trying new things. So I went there really open. And it felt natural. And going to a sound bath, and there's lots of people I speak to that have still never been to one, is the most magical experience of the sounds and the vibrations. It's like being in outer space, and it releases so many good feelings within you, in your body and your mind.
Amazing. So get towards the end of the sound bath.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about during it. What was you thinking during it?
It just felt beautiful.
It felt nice.
Yeah, and I've even taken my little daughter to a sound bath, and she loved it.
Yeah, and then afterwards, so you walk away from the sound bath, you're feeling good, obviously.
Yeah.
Was there an eagerness then to go back and do something like that again, or was there any resistance?
Yeah, so then I was on my way at that stage, and the next thing for me was trying a shamanic drumming and breathwork session 1-on-1.
Sounds good.
Again, I knew nothing about it. So this brilliant guy called Tony, and lying down on the table, and I'm doing breathwork, and breathwork's quite difficult, but the benefits are huge. Breathwork for 5 minutes is difficult. I had to do an hour of breathwork non-stop, and I'm a novice. It was so difficult, but as you know yourself, you get in some sort of trance. So I'm doing this breathwork, and he's beating his drum in my ear. If only my mates could have seen me. And about 25 minutes in, I started screaming at the top of my voice, like screaming for my life. But I wasn't screaming at the thought of something. I was just releasing something. I don't even know what I was releasing. And that happened a second time after about 45 minutes. I had these two giant releases of just shit that we build up over the years that we don't even know what we're even screaming about or carrying. So for me, that was a huge, huge shift.
So was that the second session? So you had sound bath?
Yeah.
And then how long between?
Probably
few weeks.
A month at the most.
Yeah. And then you actually allowed yourself to surrender that much into it. You had that release.
I didn't really choose to surrender. It just happened. What I chose to do was go there. And what I chose to do was do the breath work, because it's dead easy to bail and give up on your breath work after a minute or two. So I chose to keep pushing through. I guess that's some sort of mental
consistency in it, committing to the practice and sticking to it and having faith that.
Because I wanted a different end result. And I'm prepared to almost try whatever it takes to get that more positive result.
Here's a question for you then. At that point where you felt like this release was going to come through, did the facilitator say to you, this might happen? Did he signpost anything like that? Or was this just for you, just organic?
I can't remember.
No.
He might have said, but I don't remember him saying it.
Was there any resistance when you felt like doing it? Did you like, no, so you just went for it? Because I feel like...
There was no thought process.
Yeah. Because I've done breath work for like 2 years, 2.5 years. And I've never got to that point of screaming, you know, uncontrollably, if you like.
I think it was also the drumming in my ear. It was a one-on-one. It was so intense.
Yeah, interesting that.
So from there, I went down a path of trying mushrooms and guided ceremonies. And again, knew nothing about mushrooms. It has a stigmatism of something from the 70s, all hippies watching unicorns flying over the trees and stuff. And, you know, nothing wrong with that at all. Who doesn't love a good unicorn every now and then? But for me, I went into this looking at it as a real self-development type idea.
Yeah.
But I did my research, and I say to anybody about plant medicines, it's vital you do your own research. Don't just listen to a mate. Do your own independence. So I watched lots of stuff on Netflix, BBC, documentaries, stuff from the 60s, stuff from, you know, modern day, so I could go into something feeling comfortable.
Oh, cool. So we will move into that healing section in a moment as well. So our paths were quite probably similar at similar times, because obviously when the babysitter came and talked about the lighthouse, when I got back from my Essex retreat, I was then looking and thirsty to find a centre or a place where I could go and access a sound bath. Because again, the sound bath at the Essex retreat for me was like the first experience of that. And I was just like, I just felt so good. Just felt so good. My mind was free to just switch off, but wander into nice places, you know, just creating, you know, just being my own inspiration in a way, just thinking about what I could go and do in life, etc. So I was like, where can I find this in Manchester? Came across the lighthouse, came across our brother and friend Jake. And I went to a sound bath on a Thursday night. And again, though, I was nervous, you know, part of me was like resisting it. Like, I don't want to go, what if this, what if that? And of course, as we know, the what ifs very rarely become anything real anyway. So I remember going in there, feeling really nervous. And again, shoes off at the door. That's not something I'm used to. You know, you walk in, everyone's got the mat, incense is burning, some fruity tunes on, you know, tunes that I listen to all the time now, but back then it was just all new to me. And then you sit down on the mat and then he goes, right, let's do a share circle. And you've got to basically talk about yourself and why you're there.
Awful.
Yeah. And so, some people are crying during theirs because they've been through some traumatic experience that has led them there. Share circle for me is probably like a pinnacle, a center point of any healing journey. Because then when it's not that the pressure's put on you, because again, if you wanted to skip, you can, but it's like, no, if I'm going to sit here, I'm going to do the work, I'm in a safe environment, you know, I trust the facilitator, I like the people around me, I'm just going to be vulnerable. And in that vulnerability is where the strength is.
That's it. Well, I think for some people, though, even just to say, hi, my name's Paul, I'm from Manchester, in a crowd of 30, 40 people, I think is actually quite daunting. Because as it's coming around closer to you, you're like, oh my God, it's getting closer, it's getting closer. A bit like at school when you're going around and you've got to speak your answer or something. So for some people, I think share circles are very scary and very daunting. But I think the more that you do it, you get a little bit more comfortable. And then next level is when you step into it. And, you know, I went through some difficult times through my divorce, which I didn't talk about to many people for a couple of years. But then when I started to talk about some of the things, I stepped into the strength of it, and almost from going from victim mindset to actually empowering type mindset. So I do believe that when you're prepared or you're nearly prepared to push yourself to step into difficult topics, I think you can let your weaknesses actually become your strengths and almost define you for your strength, because there's so many people who've been through horrendous moments in life, yet they are so strong and they're so happy and they've got so much gratitude because they've gone through that journey of being despair and rock bottom to actually releasing it and making it a strength. We don't have to be defined by moments that happen in our life. We're almost paying the price. Repeat, because if something happened when we were 6 years old or 21 years old or whatever age.
I agree. So if we move into that journey then, the healing part of your life, what was the hardest part for you to heal from?
Losing my parents. So when I lost my mum 17 years ago, I would have been, do some maths, about 32, 33.
Do you want me to check that?
You can check it on Wikipedia. I didn't deal with it very well. Like I said, I was blessed. I was so such good parents I was given.
Yeah.
But again, your biggest strength can also become your biggest weakness. The thing you love the most is the thing that can hurt you the most. But again, I go back to gratitude, that if you're hurt from something that you really cared about, it's almost a blessing that you have something to really care about. So again, it's gratitude. So for 14 years, I didn't particularly heal very well from that. Thought I was doing okay, but I wasn't. But then when I started doing the work in the healing and the inner work and this journey, then that was when it started to work through it.
No, thank you for sharing, mate. I think it's beautiful as well, just from knowing you over the last, we met in April, didn't we? The Easter weekend retreat. I just got on me straight away. We had a couple of moments in Peru, didn't we? Where you annoyed me on the bus. She said I had a hard paper round.
I normally upset everyone 7 times a day.
Just on a 16-hour flight, and he's fucking dissing me because I had eye bags. But no, as we step in,
someone great cream and treatment from your missus, didn't you?
We did. But so what tools, if you like, and this is where you referenced mushrooms a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
So what tools in the spiritual toolbox have you got access to, or what were the tools that you used to help you through, or what were the tools that helped you realize certain things and receive them upgrades and those downloads, the cliches that we like to use?
I feel like I'm a bit of a ninja with what I've got in the toolbox.
Yeah.
And I'm just grateful to myself that I was brave enough and open enough to consider doing things and then doing whatever I've done. But yeah, it started with the sound baths, it started with the breath work, and the shamanic drumming. Then it went to a mushroom ceremony, and people understandably worry about doing things like mushroom ceremony. So what I've said is really vital. Do your own research. Don't just listen to a mate, that's fine, but listen to who you trust, but do your own stuff. Then it's the environment that you do any of these plant medicines in is key. That's super important. And again, that comes from a really strong recommendation of someone that you trust. So tick. And I say to people that with mushrooms is, I only speak from my personal experience, is you're still in control of your mind. People think, I don't want to lose my mind. You know, that's everyone's biggest fear, really, isn't it? But it's almost like putting virtual reality glasses onto your eyes and stepping into your subconsciousness. Like, wow, look where I'm looking, look where I'm going. But it's all, for me, very controlled. It's not scary. And if I go into a certain topic and a certain thread that happened when I was a kid or a teenager or last week, you can visit it in a very safe kind of moment, and then you can also decide, right, I can't quite work this one out, I'm going to leave it and come back. Or you might get to the bottom of the thread and go bang, and then you can release it. Mushrooms for me infinitely changed my life for the better, with grief, depression, stress, anxiety, open me up spiritually, less judgmental, more at peace. All of the really nice fluffy things that we, as typical blokes, we don't necessarily embrace or be open to.
No, mate. So when I went and done the sound bath, got to the end, then you've got the closing circle. You got to speak
Love
again.
A good circle.
And then the facilitator said, right, tomorrow we've got mushroom ceremony. And obviously I'd been coaching with my coach, Dan, 5 months or so at this point. And he's always been one to, talk positively about the benefits that you can receive from, like you said, sitting in a safe space, using psilocybin mushrooms and taking yourself on that inner journey. So it was like a real calling for me. And again, I just felt so safe where I was. So I was like, I'm coming back tomorrow. And I'll never forget that first ceremony again. Walked in, took my shoes off, and I was like shitting myself. I was really worried about taking this medicine.
Sounds like you in Peru.
Sounds like me in Peru. So that's like the pattern, isn't it? The cycle, yeah. So I goes in the room, and it was quite a busy one, talking to 20 people in this ceremony. And I got chatting to this one lad, and not your typical kind of hippie looking kind of guy. Tattoos.
You mean like me with this t-shirt on?
Yeah, not like you, Paul. Yeah, you've too far gone. But no, he was just like in like a night tracksuit, decent hairstyle, tattoos all over himself. And then he just started chatting to me, because that's what it's like in that particular venue. And that's what it's like in the spiritual community generally. Yeah. Everyone's just like wanting to chat and get to know you. Yeah. And do you know what, mate? He literally just coached me through it. He said, have you done it before? I was like, no. And he went, right. He went, what dose are you going to go for? And I went, the smallest one. He went, guy your size, mate, go for the highest one. So I was like, bit of ego as well, you know. But he was delivering it in a nice way.
Yeah.
You know, it weren't
Yeah,
egotistical. He just said, look, bro, for you to get the best out of this experience, you're in a safe space. You can go for the 3 grams it was. And then he sat next to me in the circle, and, you know, you drink the medicine, and then my heart rate, I looked at my Fitbit and it was like 100 beats a minute. So I thought, right, need to just calm down a little bit. And then obviously you start with the breath work, you're going into the sound healing. 40 minutes has passed. You're laying your back, you got your eye mask on.
Yeah.
And then the visuals start.
Yeah.
So you quite rightly said, you know, my viewpoint on mushrooms, especially prior to the spiritual path, just growing up through my 20s, was you take mushrooms, you're going to jump out of a window, you know. And I'm not going to sit here and say that that's potentially never happened. I don't know, but my personal experience with mushrooms, I've done it on a fair number of occasions over that time period, have all been positive. And one of the biggest breakthroughs that I ever got was being able to forgive a caregiver for them not meeting my emotional needs. And the biggest lesson, just as I was lay there going through the journey in my mind, was how can I expect that person to have shown me the love that I needed when they never received it? And that's what the mushroom just delivered to me.
That's beautiful.
And I was like, wow, you know. And it weren't like an instant sort of change. It was an instant change in terms of my perception of the subject, but with a little bit more work and exploring it with my coach. You know, there was one particular online session with my coach about 3 or 4 weeks after that mushroom ceremony, and said caregiver had triggered me. And I went into the call with my coach triggered, and I was angry and I was frustrated. And we done some breath, and he was like, you know, we got towards the end of the first round, and he said, whatever that tension is, he said, just bring it up to your throat. So as I'm sort of breathing in, I could feel this like physical pressure in my throat, mate, for the first time, you know. And as I released the breath, I just felt the tears coming. And I was like, wow. And then he gone again. And I thought, surely it's not going to come back. And it was there, that lump, you know, released the breath. And we sort of just ended the call not too long after that. And I must have sat with myself, mate, for a good hour, just crying my eyes out.
That's another shift. It's a massive shift. It's like the next level, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. And I was journaling, writing down. And it weren't like hatred I was putting on paper. It was all just like love towards that person and like forgiveness almost, you know. But again, though, it's, I think, a big part of like healing. Obviously, everyone's got different stories, different things have happened to people. But, you know, I don't feel the person that neglected my emotions almost knew they were doing it. And I think it came from them not feeling good enough to be in my life. So what I seen as a rejection was more of a fear from them, maybe feeling he's better off without me. Do you understand? So it was a deep one, mate. It was a deep one. But
I think though also that, and again, I'm learning all of the time. I think often when we meet people who are a certain way to us, and if it's a bit negative, and I know I think we discussed it before, it's about sometimes we're mirroring back. We're holding a mirror up to people, and sometimes they don't like what they see. So then they go for quick default, having a go, having a pop, being negative at you for whatever reason. But ultimately, subconsciously, they're not liking. You're helping shine a light on themselves through your actions. And they don't like what they're seeing. So I think then they come at us in a certain way. Yeah, but this, yeah, but that. So I think sometimes, and then it comes to healing and forgiveness, that I think it's, and again, something I've worked on myself since kind of Peru type thing is, I think it's really, really, really important you forgive certain people for whatever they might have done to you. Not necessarily even for their sake, if I'm being honest, for your own sake. Because once you forgive somebody, you almost release it for your own better. So and that can be hard for people been through all different things of life, but I think it's vital to forgive just to release it.
That's it. We're not necessarily forgiving them. We're not ringing them going, I forgive you. We're just releasing the trauma, the feeling, everything that we've suppressed over the years.
I think as well, without going, necessarily into too much, I've actually, so some people that might have wrongdone me, I've actually apologized to them as a real way of releasing it. So not just forgiving them in my sleep, having a chat, I forgive you, I'll let you off. Actually owning it and apologizing and forgiving for maybe what we did as part of that scenario, because it can take two to tango more often than not, let's be honest. We're part of something. And front it. And that person's probably like, really? Like, but you're doing it for yourself, because otherwise we carry these things in our backpack of subconscious emotions and they're not worthy. Sometimes that person that might have done something to you last week or 25 years ago, they're not worthy of owning any space in your consciousness.
Yeah, so what you're saying there is the final outcome, even though the action that maybe has caused the divide or the split or the argument, the final action was on them. But what you're saying is, I'll take ownership for the behavior maybe leading up to that.
I'll take ownership for my part of the process, whether your part was 1% or 99%, whatever that part was. It's not that important. Take ownership for your part of the process and almost take some sort of ownership for the outcome as well.
Yeah, well, that's majorly pushing the ego to the side, isn't it?
Well, we can talk about that if you want as well, the ego. And again, I've only started to understand this now. Recently, I'm listening to this audio book called The Power of Now. And if I'd listened to this audio book even 12 months ago when I was on this journey, it would have made no sense to me.
Yeah.
Now, because I've took baby steps, and it talks about the ego. And I thought the ego is more about brash, confident, full of yourself, chip on your shoulder. Yeah, sweet. That is part of ego. But what I'm understanding now, the ego mind is that little voice in your head that is a negative, that pulls you back from doing things, pulls you back from being that best version of yourself, because we all have days where it just flows. You're on fire. You feel great. Nothing's happened in your life, but the world feels great and you're singing songs, smiling at the birds. The birds in the trees. Then the next day you're not, because it's maybe your ego mind has pulled you back. Don't go to the gym. Eat those chocolate bars. Don't do that email. Oh, they're not being nice to you. Whatever it might well be. And I believe that once you can identify that is the ego mind talking and do some work on it, you can almost then, what's the thing when you take the thing out the bomb so they can't go off anymore? Whatever that word is. They can't hurt you anymore. And you almost make peace with your ego, realizing it's not the enemy. It feels it's doing the best job for you, but it's so out of date.
Yeah, you've actually started to name yours, haven't you?
Ernie. My ego's called Ernie.
Got a good relationship with him, getting better.
I talk to him every day, almost like a child. And I'm kind to him as much as I can and say, I know you're looking out for me and I know you think that's best, but I've got this. And I've put him now in the passenger seat. Yeah, you can speak in my ear, but I'm going to make the decisions on what you're telling me to do or not to do. So I know this sounds insane to many people, but we all have that negative side of ourselves. But if you can isolate that and almost make peace of it, then it doesn't have to be such a conflict.
Do you know what, mate? Do you think this sounds insane to people? Because I'm sat here now and things are making sense to me. And again, there's no right or wrong in this. But I wish sometimes, just for 5 minutes, I could go back 3 years or 5 years just to see how my brain was processing certain information and how I was thinking and feeling. And ultimately, we want this conversation to speak to people that maybe are interested in stepping into that personal development, spiritual development. So do you think, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but do you think that might sound insane to someone that's not really stepped into any of this work?
I think if you're honest enough to know that you're not quite where you want to be in life, you get materialistic nonsense in terms of your happiness and your peace and your fulfillment, and you're not sure what's missing, but you're aware of something, I think this can start sowing a few little seeds. And it might not make sense this second, but a few more seeds might crop up that you've heard on TV, online, an audio book, spoke to a friend, been to an event, and all of a sudden these little seeds get planted, and before you know it, a little penny drops. So I think if you're open and you can park your ego enough to say that you don't know it all and nobody knows it all and there is no right and wrong, then I think some of this can resonate a little bit.
I think the best advice there really is just don't judge.
Yeah.
Just be an open book. Don't judge anything. Just give it a try if you want to.
And we all do it though. We judge people by how they dress, how tall they are.
As you said that, I just looked at the mushroom on the t-shirt.
You know, their background, their passport, the colour of their hair, the music they listen to, you know, maybe even their name, which they didn't even choose, their parents did. We judge so quick. And that's the ego, because I guess I don't like using these cheesy analogies that years ago the saber-toothed tigers run at us. Do we stay or do we run? Pretty obvious, we leg it. You know, but I think our instinct judges situations. So we judge, is this dodgy? Is this danger? Should we get out of here? So it's good to judge, but I think most of the stuff that we judge is nonsense. And that's why when you go to events that we go to, and I've been to a couple of your events now, you'll sit with people that are all different walks of life that you'd think, I've got nothing in common with him, I've got nothing in common with her. But you have a 60-second conversation and you're on the same page. And you've got more in common with that stranger from 90 seconds than you've got with somebody you've known for 25 years. So again, it is parking your ego, like you say, importantly. Don't judge so quick.
Like it. So we're still on the healing path, okay?
For me, I want to talk about healing, is people here, these spiritual people are all healing, they're all damaged, they're all this, all that stuff. And yes, healing is a big part of the process, but healing is also, for me, understanding yourself. So it takes bravery and courage. But for me, the spiritual path is about healing, understanding. And it's about growing. And it's a bit like an iceberg. You see underneath the water all of the healing, but then above that, you see that high is the growth. So for me, this path is as much about growing as it is healing. And I think once you do some healing, particularly at the beginning, it's more and more and more about growth. I think now my journey now is probably 70% growth, 30% healing. So
I love that.
There's just a bit of a stigma that people from the outside think, you're healing all this. Yeah.
Do you know what, mate?
It's growth.
Right. So naturally here then, let's fall into the Peru trip then.
Yeah.
Okay. So me and Paul went to Peru together in May for around sort of a 2.5 week spiritual boot camp, should we call it, Paul?
It definitely was boot camp.
Now, there was lots of triggers coming through for me. I'm going to be away from the missus, going to be away from my boy. I don't even want to do it. Why have I fucking signed up to this? But that was just the inner child, the little boy in me that was like, had attachments to home, had attachments to my missus, had attachments to my little boy. Don't want to be away. I'm going to be facing all of these massive obstacles because we weren't just going to go to one venue and like sit there for a week and it was all going to be luxury. We were literally backpacking around Peru, weren't we? You know, stayed in 8 different hotels, got about 8 different bloody aeroplane flights, you know, internal. So there was just a lot going on. And even though it was over 17 days, you were never in one place for too long. Right. So I was just like, this is not for me. Like, why have I done this? But I'd already invested the money. So anyway, I go. Now, you were talking there about the growth and the healing, because healing sometimes, mate, I think can get a little bit sickly, you know, because you just go in all the time and you're releasing and it's well, where is the growth? And I think that's a really good point to bring into. So see, for myself to go to Peru and put myself through all of those different challenges and obviously meet great people and make mega connections. And, you know, now we've got contacts in Peru, haven't we? You know, we speak to the retreat center holder Demas.
I'm
you know,
importing alpaca wool.
there you go, mate, you know, businessman. So, but the growth that I have seen from the challenges that I faced and overcome in Peru, my life has changed.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah.
no bullshit,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's fact, you know. I stepped up in my business. I've just started a new program that I'm going to be taking people on. I've been asked to be part of another program which is looking after men and taking them on a 12-month rite of passage, taking them through all different parts of their psyche. So that's something I'm really excited about. You know, there's Thailand retreats that are included within that. And all of that work I've stepped into now, even doing the podcast, finding the courage and the strength
Yeah.
and everything else, that came from that second ayahuasca evening for me, where, and again, if you are new to spirituality, you're probably going to switch it off after this, but it's like I seen my higher self.
Yeah.
You know, it was like a vortex of energy, and I was like me now, just looking up at him, and he was just looking down at me, and he
Wow.
was like the God, you know, he's the slickest version of me ever. And what felt like a lifetime, he just kind of went, let's go, sort of thing. And since then, I've just been able to sort of understand that I have got a power within inside of me. I've got the magic inside of me. And the only person
Which we've all got.
Which we've all got. And the only person that can stop me from doing anything in this world is me. And like you just said, that doesn't just count for me. That counts for every single person. You, Kieran, Michelle, all of you is at home. It's like the magic, the power is within. So you come to these sessions to take part and to heal and to maybe release some traumas, you know, get to know like-minded people. But then it's again, we need to step into the growth. I've just released something now. So I've made space for something new to come in. So if I'm letting go of a limiting belief because I don't feel like I'm good enough, now I need to step outside my comfort zone. I don't have to go to step 10 straight away.
No.
What's step 1? Let's do that.
And I think if you're in the mindset of permanently healing, guess what? You'll be permanently healing. At some stage, you've got to trick your subconsciousness if necessary. I'm growing now. You know, what comes first, the growth or the idea? I go for both at the same time just to cover my bases. Sometimes you've got to come with the idea.
And it's when you step into that growth factor, when you make the decision whether you're going to start a new business, reach out to an old friend, commit to having children, whatever that growth is for that person, it's going to feel scary. It's going to feel so uncomfortable.
But your ego is pulling you back. You know, we talk about a comfort zone. Again, the ego creates a comfort zone. You know, we're drawn to staying where we are now because it's safe, if one for a better word. You know, we're not particularly happy, but we're not incredibly unhappy. So we stay where we are. And we all, I believe, owe it to ourselves. And if you've been blessed with good parents, I think you owe it to your parents, but you owe it to yourself to be a pretty good version of yourself and be happy. And it doesn't matter what happiness or success looks like. It doesn't have to be what success looks like on Instagram or with your mates. Success and happiness is deep down internal yourself. And that's it. It could be a case of, I went to the shops today, you know, with a bit more confidence. I said hello to the person on the cash register. I, you know, went a bit further to the you know, whatever it is. It could be the tiniest wins or the massive major successes.
Yeah.
So it's all relative.
My coach set me a challenge back in 2023 to push me outside my comfort zone. He said, what are you doing on Sunday morning? And I was, at that particular time, I was doing a lot of walking. So I said, I'm just going to do like a 5-mile walk, you know, around the local area, grab a coffee. He said, right, when you go into the coffee shop, he said, I want you to ask for 20% off at the till.
Remember you said?
Yeah. And I was like, I laughed. I thought, he must be joking. And he went, no, I'm being serious. I was like, I'm not doing it, Dan. I'm just not doing it. He went, you are. I was like, fuck. So I was dreading it all
And I've
week.
noticed a shift in this with you just from knowing you less than 6 months that, you know, you and many of us can, nah, that's not for me. Not doing that. Nah. But I've noticed with you a lot more in the last few months that nah is actually, it softly opens up. And then when you're brave enough or open-minded enough to step into that alternative solution, you're then loving that other door, that other solution.
Yeah.
Big time.
No,
And
big
that's
time.
that's credit to you for
No, it is.
not just because we're all programmed with what we like and what we don't like. Doesn't mean it's for the better for us. So that's great that now that he helped you push,
100%,
but you
mate.
bought into it. That was your choice. You bought into the uncomfortableness, even though you didn't believe in it at the time. You bought into it.
Faith in the process as well. And that was the thing. And the woman behind the counter, when I asked for the 20% off, she was looking at me dead confused, and she was like, "What are you talking about?" Like, so she didn't make it easy for me. You know, I don't know if Dan rang her and, you know, set it up for me or not, but she was just like, "Do you mean like a voucher?" I said, "No, I'm just asking for 20% off, like a bit of family discount, friends discount." And she just went, "No." I went, "Listen, let me tell you why I'm doing it." So then it opened up a conversation. I explained why I was doing it, and she went, "You are so brave." She went, "I could not do that." Do you understand? You know, so like you said there about the pushing yourself out of comfort zone, doesn't have to be starting a business. It could just literally be going, "Do you know what? I'm going to go in the shop today, and everyone that I see, I'm going to smile at."
That's it.
You know, because you feel so much better for that
We live
exchange.
in a world where, particularly in the big cities, is I ain't smiling at you until you smile at me first. I ain't letting you pass in your car until you let me pass. I'm not waving to that guy as a thank you because the last guy didn't wave at me.
Yeah.
But if you're thinking the exact same thing as me, I ain't smiling at that miserable git unless he smiles at me. So the whole world is waiting for someone to make that first move.
Facts, mate.
We need people to make the first move, and you might smile at 10 people, and 3 of them might scowl at you and ignore you and talk under the breath, "Who the heck are you?" But probably 4, 5, 6 of them will actually smile back, and you'll feel better. Even when someone gives you a negative reaction, you'll feel better because you've done your bit. And as kind of deep as it all sounds, it has a ripple effect. Because if you're surrounded by people being kind to you, whatever kindness looks like, tell you what, you're more likely to be kinder to other people. And the people that you're kinder to, guess what? They're likely to be kinder as well. So it does have a knock-on effect. We get conditioned by our environment and by our friends and by where we live, positively and negatively. But again, that's also our choice. We don't have to go with the flow.
I agree, mate. So over the last 3 years, you know, the healing journey, as we call it, and even the growth journey as well that we put together with that. It's not all sunshines and rainbows. It's not all, you know, sage and Reiki, is it? You know, there's some deep moments. So have you felt lonely at any part over the last 3 years?
Good question. If I hadn't have grown my network and put myself out there to meet different types of people and similar-minded souls and people, then it would have been very different. But I'm really, really thankful that now there's a lot more people that are similar-minded. I'm very, very mainstream, you know, traditional spiritualist type person.
You don't look it, Paul.
Who, I know, I'm in disguise. I've got my Man United shirt underneath. Maybe they grew up that way because of their parents, their surroundings, where they were born. I was none of that. So I think the really good thing is that there's more and more mainstream people now that are similar-minded. Like you say, you go to some of these events and there's tough bruisers full of tattoos and, you know, maybe even been in the nick and, you know, lived a really difficult life of stuff that they're not necessarily proud of what they've done. But credit to them, they've hit their rock bottoms and they've decided, you know what, I'm making a difference. I'm leaving my mates behind here now. You know, I'm going to make a change. So you can connect with the most extreme different type of people. So have I been lonely? No.
No.
Because I'm also not in an arrogant way now. In general, of course, we all care what people think, we're humans, but in general, I don't give a monkey's what people think because the right people will get us, support us, understand us. And the ones that don't, you can spend the whole of your life trying to change their minds, but it's a lot of wasted energy.
So something worth noting then for people that haven't stepped into these modalities yet or found a community, if you like, is don't worry if your current friends or your current network think it's strange or weird or it's not for them. That's okay. We won't judge them. Just understand that when you find your community, you'll start to connect with people on a deeper level and you'll quickly start to build this
Truth.
this soul family. Now we call it, don't we? It's not even friends anymore. It's like brother,
You got a connection.
sister, it's soul fam. It's different level.
Two things to say is the first thing is when you go to these events, your events and the Lighthouse and other places, is probably 50% of people there go alone. I go on my own, if I'm honest. 9 times out of 10. And most people there, they're not just alone, they're going there for the first time.
Yeah.
So people are vulnerable, and being vulnerable is a huge strength. People think being vulnerable is a weakness. Vulnerable is saying, I'm showing up and I'm going to be strong because I want to be a better version of me. It takes courage. So I'd say if your friends are noticing a change in you, difference of words you use, different of opinions, different thought process, different hobbies,
different t-shirts,
different beads, it's a result. The minute they notice difference and show some resistance to you, result, because it means you're on the right path. Because if they weren't showing any resistance to you, it means you're the same old you. And there's nothing wrong with being the same old you. So you want them to notice, what is he doing? What is she doing? What are they talking about? Because it shows that you're stepping into your own power and you're moving forward.
And I don't want to be negative at all. I'm just being realistic and I'm sharing my experience. But for me to step into this path that I've done over the last 3 years, I've not lost people forever, but I've reconnected with these people now. But after about a year or so, there was conversations happening behind my back that I found out things like, oh, AJ fucking hell, he thinks he's a guru now, you know, and I was really asked about that as well initially, to the point where I set up my Instagram for the business. I wouldn't collaborate with my own personal Instagram. I kind of wanted to keep it separate from that life where I was the sales director driving it. That's it, because I built up this life that I really thought I wanted. And then when I got to like what I class as the top, as furthest as I could potentially go, you know, I was like, this isn't it for me at all. And obviously I found a separate way by accident to a degree. But now, fast forward to where we are today, I'm back on Facebook under my own name. You know, there's people on there from my old life. There's people on there from a new life. And I'm sharing whatever I feel like I want to share. And I just generally now I'm at a place where I don't necessarily care if they're going to judge me in a negative way, because I am happy with me. And ultimately, you've got to come at peace with that, but you are going to potentially go through some turbulent times where the people that you're close with now are just not going to get it. And the best thing you can do is just not judge them for that. And it's hard, it's going to be tough, but just understand
that's a waste of energy as well.
Yeah, it's a waste of energy, but understand that in time, they'll come around. So
they may not.
These lads I lost over the years have slowly sort of come back to me now, and they're having these conversations about energy or, you know, God or just something. And I'm like, that's interesting. So I've got that analysis now over the course of time where I can connect the dots.
And I think it's one of the brilliant things about what you do and how you come across when you do your events is, again, I'd look at you as being very mainstream, middle of the road, one of the lads, a lad's lad. And the fact that you made a huge detour in your life with the way that you think and the things that you now do, and you're now trying to open it up to other people because maybe you didn't have people to open up to you and you know the benefit of it. So it's huge kudos to you, but it's great for other people out there to think, here's a normal society looking fella here who's prepared to be brave, to think and act differently. You know, life is always going to be a challenge, and sometimes people from the outside might look in and think, right, well, he's on that path, he's learnt this, he's done all his self-development, blah, blah, blah. Why is life still a challenge for these people at times? And I look at it a bit like a computer game. So you go on your computer game, you're on level 1, you get through level 1, you're on level 2, it's difficult again, isn't it? Level 7 now, it's difficult. Level 467, it's still difficult. Every level of life is difficult, but that's great because it means you're growing. You're going through the levels of yourself. If you're never faced with self-doubt and challenges and you know, these moments, it means you've just stood still. And again, without judging, I don't believe that our life is meant just to stand still, because, you know, people don't like talking about mortality. but I believe that you might need to shake that rattle in a minute to get me back on track. But I think that when you acknowledge and accept that one day we're all going to die, is a minute you can actually start living. Because otherwise you're hiding away from life. You're avoiding the difficult conversations. Because I believe, like my dad, when he was in his 80s, he figured life out. A lot of old people in their 70s and 80s, they figure what life's about. So do we want to get to our 70s and 80s with a life full of regret? I never did this because of what the next door neighbour or the mate thought. I never did this because I felt uncomfortable. Or do you want to think, I give everything a good go. Didn't all work, but I learned from it and I give it a go.
Do you know what's crazy with that? This was way before I got into this line of work. I'm talking like early 20s, mid 20s. When I left the Navy, I literally went from job to job to job to job. Like I've done everything, mate. I've done airport security. I've done airport baggage. I've been a DJ.
I heard you were a Chippendale for a couple of years.
I've been a doorman, not been a Chippendale yet. That's coming. I've literally done loads, mate. Yeah. And everyone used to say like, hell, AJ, you're in another job. You're in another job. And it started to annoy me because I felt like they were judging me. Like, why are you bothered about how I'm earning my money? Like, leave me alone. Anyway, I started to say to people at one point, I don't want to get to the age of 70 and have regrets.
Correct.
Do you know? And I've been saying that for over a decade. You've just really brought that back. And I don't, mate. I don't want to get to the age of 70 and have regrets, you know. This place where we're sat now in Gatley, my mum used to literally work down the road from here when I was a kid. And I was saying this actually last night. My mum was around and I used to walk past this very shop with my grandma when I was like 3 or 4. And subject to of obviously being in Peru, and we've got that connection now with Alan, we had the Shabibo tribe in this building a few weeks ago doing a ceremony. And it's like, I can sit there sometimes because, like you say, we're on this path now. How come we're still having struggles? And it's because we're still expanding. We want to grow further and further and further out of our comfort zone. I want to look back like I'm the best version of me now. Yeah. But this time next year, if I'm not higher or more evolved, it's like, well, what have I done? Yeah. And it's like, I just took a bit of a step back. I've had a challenging week this week, but it was like, look at what I've achieved. Yeah. You know, like the Shabibo tribe from the Amazon rainforest, the jungle, are in Gatley of all places because I brought them here.
The place you used to walk past as a kid.
Yeah. And it's like in life, everything's connected, isn't it? Well,
you've gone full circle on it. You know, from where you were as a kid walking past this shop in a fantastic building that you've got to then getting the Shabibo tribe over here, you know, making an impact on people's lives. That's what it's about.
I agree.
Because it's not just about what we do for ourselves, it's what we do for others. And that will obviously tap into part of your why and your passion with what you're doing, because you want to help others, because without speaking for you, is you've experienced struggle, you've experienced difficult times, you've experienced not having the support, you know, so you've gone through that. So you now want to share that. I mean, you tell me, why have you got into this and what is your passion for what you're doing now?
This is about you, Paul.
What is your why, apart from being a better version of yourself? There's a deeper meaning to it as well, though, isn't there?
So why do I want to be a facilitator?
Yeah, why are you doing what you do, and why do you feel so passionately about it?
Community for me. I like to lead. I like to be a leader, and I like to lead because I lead fair, and I don't believe in cliques, and I don't believe in one person's more important than another. I actually genuinely believe that every single person in any circle is important to that circle. Just as if we went back thousands of years to a village, everyone's got the job, everyone's got the role. And because I noticed the changes that certain modalities have done in my life, I don't know, mate, I just wanted to bring that through. I just wanted to help people, as simple as that. Why? Because...
Why do you want to help people be their best version of themselves? To be a happier version of themselves?
Because the transformation that you see people go through, and the way that they are continuously stepping outside of their comfort zone, and then I will observe that either through social sometimes, or we have a conversation on the phone, and it's just fucking great to see, mate. You know, I've got loads of examples, but I'll pick one. One girl was a hairdresser for many years, and she'd always wanted to do bridal hair. It was a big thing for her, real passion. You know, she comes from a family where no one's ever really done anything for themselves. No one's ever stepped up into business. So she was in a comfort zone now, just being the self-employed hairdresser. And then after the 2024 summer retreat, she said, no, I'm going to step into bridal. So that was obviously over a year ago now. And now she's fully in that, winning awards, just
great.
getting booked out for like next year. And, you know, that's just her spiritual journey. But she used me as a vehicle, if you like. Not just me, she was going to various platforms, but I was part of her journey to help her see what she had within. Do you understand? And it's like, there's just no better prize, really, to see people
I think
do
our
that.
purpose in life, one of our key purposes, is to help other people.
Yeah.
And especially if we're in a slightly more fortunate position, don't mean money, just where we're at, I think it's our duty to help other people. So I think what you see in people's struggles and transformation, you're almost looking back at yourself from where you were and remembering what that position felt like when you started, but then also remember what that journey looked like and then what it feels like now to come through the other side and wake up. And I think you want other people to also feel that.
Yeah. A skill that I've got is, you know, helping people find out what their passion is. You know, I'll just ask the question.
And a lot of people don't know what the passion is.
Yeah. But if they dig deep enough, you know,
it's a series of questions.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's a series of questions. You dig deep enough, you'll find it. And that's what my coach done with me. Asked a series of questions, and the word that came out was community. And then from there, it was like, well, what should the community be in? And we don't need the answer straight away, because divine timing, it will just drop in for you. Then going to the breathwork session, it was like, I want to do this. This is the thing that I can go and do now. I can help people the way I've been helped. And then once I got the qualification, he sent me a challenge and he said, right, challenge next week, you run a free breathwork session just for a testimonial in return. Once again, like, you know, bottle went really. But again, I committed to it and I've done it. And then off that one action, stepping out my comfort zone that one time, fast forward 2.5 years, here we are now, planning trips to Peru, taking 25 people to South Wales on a summer retreat. So it's like, that's why it's important to step outside of comfort. So
you, at one stage when you started into this journey, you were more the passenger in the back seat, you know, throwing apples at everyone in the front. Now you're the front seat, you're the driver, you're the organizer. And, you know, credit to you. And there's nothing wrong with actually acknowledging where you've come on your journey, you and anybody else in life. Is, you know, our friends in society would rather us talk about and acknowledge our weak areas and failures and sadness. For whatever reason, people don't sound so comfortable about hearing something that's gone well for you. It comes back into loving yourself. Almost that if you don't give yourself some credit, you might be waiting for the people to give you credit for the rest of your life. It's got to start with you. And then I think you mirror it out. So I think, you know, every now and then we all need a little moment to look at, you know, where we've been and where we are now, and a little tiny pat on the back. Yeah, push forward. But I think if we're constantly, this is what me and you will have done in business over the years, if we're constantly looking forward and we're never or very, very rarely satisfied, we're missing the journey. We're walking around in life with our eyes closed, and before you know it, we're 80 in the old folks' home doing a crossword, and we've missed the show.
And that's
There's no going back.
And the journey is every day. Like what we're doing now is part of our journey, our friendship, isn't it? You know, so every single day is just an opportunity to have fun and enjoy and just love yourself, love others.
And that's why my kid, my little beautiful Estella, who will be watching this, is my daughter and your little boy Ronan. You know, kids are our teachers. And again, I know it sounds cliche. Why kids? How can they be teaching us? Because they're just in the moment. They're just having fun. They're not judging where we judge the clothes, the hair, the background, what car the dad dropped them off in and all that garbage. What postcode did they live in? Kids are just in the moment having fun, playing with little stones and mud on the floor, having a laugh.
Back to basics.
Having the best time ever. You know, and I learned from my kid, even when she was younger, I learned from children all the time. And then I learned from the other end of the spectrum. I learned from the older people who are in the 70s and 80s and older, because I learned from their perspective. They've lived through the journey. They've made the mistakes. You know, they've got through the other side. And I don't think we should have to get towards the back end of our life being grandparents before the penny drops. No. Imagine if the penny can drop in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, you know, and then have that period of your life when the penny's dropped and you're not relentlessly chasing like a dog that's chasing its tail, and he catches it once every blue moon, doesn't it?
So, what's your purpose in life now, Paul?
My purpose is being brave enough to carry on living a fulfilled life, identifying what it means to be fulfilled, because it's an easy word to say, but then showing enough love, kindness, and empathy to support other people along the way. And be that best version of myself with as little regrets as possible in life. I'm stripping it back to basics.
And how do you stay aligned to that purpose every day?
Good question. I think sometimes you have to come off track to realize what the track looked like and what the benefit is. So how do I stay aligned? I don't know if it's such a conscious thing or not, but it could be dragging myself to breath work. It could be doing a bit of Wim Hof breath work when I'm driving, like I did this morning. It could be listening to a podcast that I can't be bothered with, that gives me so much growth and understanding. You know, it could be trying to meditate for just 60 seconds. You know, it's just grabbing those tiny, tiny little moments. It could be being with my daughter and throwing my phone under the sofa so I can't even go there and look at it. It could be even going to the cinema and making a rule myself. I'm not going to look at my phone during the cinema. It's just little things rather than maybe a particular practice.
Oh, I love it, mate. Thank
what
you.
I will also say is gratitude in the morning. I wake up every morning before I actually open my eyes properly. It's typically when anxiety kicks in with people. Is I start with about 60 seconds of gratitude. Yes, it can be for my daughter, the easy, obvious ones, but I'm grateful that I've got my eyes. I'm grateful that I can say I'm grateful. I'm grateful for my toes and moving them in bed. And then when I go to sleep at night, I say thank you again. I say good night to my mum and my dad. I say thank you to my soul. It's kind of starting, probably my biggest practice is gratitude, and particularly starting the day and ending the day with gratitude.
Yeah, just becoming aware every single day of what you've got in your life that you've got to be grateful for. And again, it doesn't have to be the material things, but it can be. But it can also be the fact that you've got clean running water, you've got a roof over your head, you've got a warm bed, you've got a missus, got a partner, got a little dog, you've got a mobile phone, you can reach your friends and your loved ones. Like, there's just so much to be grateful for.
But then you've got the opportunity to go to the shops. You've got the opportunity to go for a walk. You know, not everyone's got that opportunity, with their health.
We are lucky, aren't we? We're lucky just to be us, mate.
I've got a friend of mine, Richard, and he is probably the biggest shining light in my life with his mindset for what he overcomes and his perspective on life. And for me, he is a huge successful winner in life because of his mindset of gratitude. But if you compare that to someone that's successful in the so-called material world, it's chalk and cheese. So again, it's all about going within.
Okay, Paul. So yesterday when we were on the phone to each other, we brought up the topic around Ricky Hatton, unfortunately passing away last week. And we both kind of shared with each other how emotionally it did have an impact on us. And I think the reason for me why it had an impact on me is because Ricky Hatton over the years has been very upfront, very honest, very raw and real about his difficulties, and he's shared that with the world. And I think when I looked at his social media after finding out the news, I seen like 2 or 3 days prior, he was on the treadmill running, looking after himself, physically. So everyone on the outside, I'm guessing, would have thought that everything was hunky-dory or everything was sweet. And it was just like a real kind of reminder to me that you just actually never really know where someone is at. And I think something that's great off the back of that is we made a little pact, didn't we? Because we were quite vulnerable with each other on that 3-hour call where you shared, sometimes you can go into that mindset sometimes, where you're a little bit low, it gets a little bit dark. And I then shared, obviously, sometimes for me, we can be flying and then all of a sudden you're just down in the parapet sometimes. And, 2 days later, you're back up again and you're thinking, where was I there at that point? And we made a little pact, didn't we, between us, where if I'm in that position or you're in that position, we don't have to promise we're going to ring each other or anything. We're just going to send each other a little emoji of the Peru flag. And that's the signal to us where it's like, right, okay, AJ's in a bit of a spot here, or for me, it's Paul's in a bit of a spot. And I think from that point there, the way I'd move forward is I'll just send you a message and just go, I've got you, brother. What does the next half an hour look like? Do you want me to ring you? Do you want me to come and see you? Do you want me to voice note you? And hopefully that's something that we've come up between me and you, that is going to help us if we do get into that situation. And this all stems from, and this isn't me or you trying to be the persons that's going to help resolve suicide across the whole world. Like, I'd love that to be the case, but I think for me it was just a case of what's the thing that I could potentially do in that situation that's then gonna lead to some form of support in the moment, because that's what these men and women need in their moments where they're about to do it, they're about to commit. They need a signal that they can send. I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
I think, first of all, it's actually taking it a couple of steps further back. If somebody's walking towards the edge of the cliff, yes, you can get to the edge of the cliff and then decide I'm going to walk back. But I think you ideally want to turn back before you get too close to the cliff. So I think if people are feeling down and it's been longer than the usual feeling down, I think that's the stage to reach out to people. I don't think you have to get to the point of the edge of the cliff before you think, phone a friend now type thing, because you might not have the clarity of mind to actually do that. And, none of us know what it's like to reach the edge of the cliff and decide and be able to step back. So for me, it's a bit like, don't wait until you're at the edge of the fire before you think, oh, I better go back. So my point being is, I think if you or I or anybody's feeling a little bit down and a bit more down and longer than maybe would be normally, that's the point to reach out to somebody. So it might be you don't have someone to talk to and have that conversation with because you feel uncomfortable. But if you've got a little agreement that you'll send a little emoji to each other, that person will be like, well, yeah, I'll reach out to them. Just see how they're doing. You don't even have to talk about what's on their mind. How are you, mate? Just thinking about, are you okay? That sometimes can be all it needs, because the Ricky Hatton stuff last weekend, it hit me really hard, not because I was a friend of his, but I think everybody felt that they knew Ricky Hatton, even though they might never have met him. And the fact that he'd been through tough times, got through them, and then he fell through the toughest times, I think saddened a lot of people. And it actually took until speaking to you yesterday to get me out of that slump I'd been in. I'd been in a slump. And that's fine to be in a slump. I think we shouldn't run away from that fact, is acknowledge it and know that 9 times out of 10, the cloud passes past the sun and it goes clear, but reach out to somebody. And if you haven't got a mate you can reach out to, it could be the Samaritans, it could be, meeting people at different type of events who aren't judgmental, who aren't going to judge you.
Of course, which then, if we was to think about the Lighthouse or my community or majority of spiritual communities just in the area that we live, that we know of, if you was to go to them to take part in a sound bath or a meditation, you're going to start to build community, like I said earlier. You're going to start to build a little soul family. You are taking actionable steps that are going to help raise your frequency, help raise your vibration. It's not going to fix everything instantly, but it's going to be that 2%, 3% increase that's going to take your mindset away from that darkness. And I know it's cliche, but there is always someone out there that wants to help and that is willing to help.
And it's also about being honest. If I'm having a bad time and you say, how are you, Paul? You all right? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. Conversation stop. But if I say, you know what, I'm struggling with a little bit at the minute, I'm not where I want to be.
Just be vulnerable.
It's being brave enough. And, I started seeing a life counsellor when I was about 28, 29. And I saw him up to, even now I might see him occasionally. And this guy had the single biggest impact on my life. What an angel. And he helped me become the best possible version of myself and helped me through ups and downs, but he helped me through the ups, not just the downs, helped me with the growth. So sometimes speaking to somebody that you don't really know, who isn't going to judge you, it just unloads all that pressure and tension rather than carrying it, because I imagine that you carry something for so long and all of a sudden it's the extra kind of straw in the camel's back that breaks the back, and if that back goes, then I don't know what happens then. So my point is, if you can see you're not feeling great, that's your time to reach out to somebody.
Yeah, reach out earlier. Don't wait until you get.
You could
to
even
the
have
very
a
end.
social media account, so it's anonymous, and reach out to somebody on social media, your channel, somebody's channel. Be honest, I'm feeling really bad at the minute. Can you give me some tips? No one can trace you back.
Yeah.
So I think there's different ways of going about it, anonymous as well.
I think that's good advice, Paul. Okay, so we're pretty much at the end, my friend. One more sort of question for you.
And you didn't have to use the rattle. Show everybody the rattle.
Do you want to show me that rattle, mate? This is your rattle at the end of the day. I'll play it.
He's good, isn't he? Why did you say about bringing the rattle though, AJ?
So the idea behind bringing the rattle was, in case Paul is getting to the point where he's waffling a little bit too much, I'll play the rattle and that'll be the cue to tone it down a little bit and move on to the next topic. But he's done well.
This is from Peru. Now, it's been a pleasure, mate, because we spoke yesterday for a lot, but we've talked about completely different stuff today.
No, we have. So last question.
Yeah.
What's one book that you would recommend to someone that is wanting to step into that lifestyle of personal development, growth, spiritual curiosity?
For me, it's been a combination of tools. I mean, I've got ADHD, so it's hard for me to choose one of anything in life. For me, it's been a combination. It has been, there's a great book I'm reading at the minute called The Power of Now. There's a movie that I swear by, which has touched my soul deeply. I've watched this movie so many times. It's called Cloud Atlas. There's a fantastic podcast called I Am by Johnny Wilkinson, the ex rugby superstar. And travel has been such a teacher to me. I first went to Thailand about 15 years ago, and just seeing how different people think and how different people live, to me, was an awakening without even realizing it. Route 66, Peru with you, which we've not gone that deeply into today. So sometimes travel can give you a very different perspective. So I think there's so many tools out there, audiobooks, podcasts, trying different types of events, movies. So hopefully there's a couple there that I've mentioned that have made a massive impact. And also a shout out to a guy called Bruce Parry. You've probably heard me talk about him. He's a travel explorer who lives with the indigenous tribes, people that have lived there thousands of years before the white man went and nicked everything. And he's a beautiful soul that does plant medicines. So there's loads of stuff out there if you're open to look for it.
Amazing. And where can people find you, Paul, on social media?
I started my own YouTube channel recently. What's it called now? It's called Life with Paul M. So if you look up on YouTube, Life with Paul M, or also on Instagram, same handle, Life with Paul M. My channel's all about positivity, self-development, upbeat stories, but also sharing real life stories of the roller coaster of life, what mistakes and what I've learned along the way, and tools how best to navigate to live that more fulfilled and happier life, and have some fun along the way, because we're here to have fun in life as well.
Top man. Thank you, Paul.
My pleasure.
Been a pleasure.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you
me.
so much. Thank you. Okay, guys. So thank you for watching today. An amazing story with Paul. And I hope you took a lot from that. Subscribe. There's going to be a lot more of these videos coming through. And if you could share this to a friend, leave a comment, then that would mean a lot to us. So from myself, the team, and Paul, thank you very much.